We have a house here, and I have a bunch of trees surrounding it as instances, and I'm going to show you how to make that. So let me just render it really quickly. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so they look like empty boxes, and that's because they're instances, which makes them much easier for the machine to deal with. So it's less taxing on your scene. All right, so I'm going to open up the scene that doesn't have the trees. And then I'm going to import a tree. And by the way, I'm going to go to import. I downloaded this tree from online, and but I'm giving the person credit in, and I would always do that in a project. So please do that as well. So there's my credit. It's from Sketchfab Low Poly Tree, and you all are welcome to use downloaded objects. Just make sure you give credit, and if I ask you if you made it and you didn't, just make sure you're honest. You could say you did something different with it, like we're doing here, but do say that you downloaded the model. Okay. So you see there it is. If yours doesn't come out with the map with the alpha channel, that's all right. But make sure you've set your scene correctly. So I'm going to set my project. Mine is in the house. Mine's in the house here. And also double check that your leaves have the color map attached to them, which looks like this. It's called the twig leaf long, let's see, twig leaf long opacity. It looks like that. Okay. And then check down here for, we haven't done this, I don't think. Just want to show you again that this is an AI standard. If we scroll down to geometry, I attached an opacity map here. And if we look, I actually made that because the I wasn't given that, by the way, through the download that I have. So I made it, I took this one and I made a black background and I turned the green parts white. And that's how you make an opacity map for Arnold AI standard. Okay, and you attach it to opacity. You can also do a bump map there if you're given one. Anyway, so the bark here has just the color map attached to it. So the bark willow JPEG. Okay, so that's where those things are connected, and that's why when you render it, you should see, hopefully when you've connected that that opacity map, you'll be able to see through the leaves and they'll do the right shadow for you. Okay, so now how do we make this into a stand-in for Mash? What we do is make sure you select the whole thing, so not just the leaves or the tree, but the whole thing, and go up to, let's see, Arnold, and scene export, and go to export selection, so not the whole thing, to .ass. I always wonder why they named it that, but you never know, somebody was having a day, so we'll call it tree. You can see I have one there. Again, you can name yours whatever, just know what it is. Export selection, and then you can actually delete that here. So to bring in the stand-in, you'll go back up to Arnold and go to stand-in, check here, and you'll get your stand-in, and you'll see it comes in as a box. You can always change that here in the attribute editor to look a little bit more like the tree if you wish, but bounding box works well for me. If I go to render, you see it actually still renders like the object. Now we can make that into, excuse me, we can make that into a mesh network, which is nice. You may have to change, well, you will have to change to FX, excuse me, FX in the lower top right? Sorry about that. Now let's go to Mash, and this is important. You need to click on the settings, okay? Because you need to choose instance, or mesh won't work because this is not a mesh, this is an instance. All right, I'm gonna click line because it's simple and it works pretty well. Okay, you can see it spreads across there. Increase that distance. You can always increase it even more by typing in a bigger number there. and you can give yourself some more objects to work with. Okay, so you could also play around with that, but we'll allow that to be where it is for now. Okay, then I want you to click on Mash here. If you need to, you can go to the Mash editor and you can click on it here to open up this channel because we're going to use the random. So left mouse click and add random node. And now you can really have a lot more fun by playing around here. Again, you can type in bigger numbers here. You probably don't want to do up and down too much. Let's see, maybe I'll do 30 on that. You can see it starting to move around, and you can keep moving it around if you wish. If you look at the distribute node, you can check and you could play around with that too. You can and the rotation. It's up to you want to be careful there with the rotation too. All right, but I can also make it distribute across my plane here. So my plane here is my ground. I'm just going to rename that ground. So that's what they're sitting on, or I want them to. So let's click on our distribute again. I'm going to click on Mash there because I don't need it to. I don't need to have the ground selected, because what I'm going to do here, it's a little tricky. But if I change this to Mash, what it'll do is it'll allow me to distribute. Right now it's set to linear, right? If I choose Mesh, it'll allow me to distribute it across this plane. Now, be careful here because I want you to use your middle mouse, not your left mouse, not your right mouse, but your middle mouse to grab ground and drag it over here. Okay, so do that carefully. And then you see that it drops right there. And now you can see that they're distributed across this plane, right? And then you could play around with random again. You could, bring that back in if it's too much. You can also go to your distribute. Well, you could go to your distribute and you could increase the number if you wish. And you can play around with some other things there. And then, if we render this now, we can see, it's going to close that. I can turn on my render gate. I want it to have the white around it, so I had that off for a moment, but that can tell me what I'm going to see when I render. So then you can kind of play around with that. I do have a sky dome light, just so you know, and mine's turned up to 2.5. I'm going to go to Arnold, render, and you can start to see what you got here. I'm using my middle mouse here to scroll in and out. So, there you have a long view. We could move up to more of a medium view, play around with, where we are. And you can keep playing around with that. And you could do a close-up, but, maybe we could have a few more of these trees. Let's see. Go to Mash. Let's go to Mash instant distribute. You could increase the number. We could bring a few, let's see, random. We could bring a few closer to us if we wish. And then let's see, we could even go inside and render from outside too. And there's our door. Remember, we could maybe have the door open and we could be looking out the door, anything really. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to render. And so you're seeing, moves pretty quickly around now. Part of that, it's not lagging. And part of that is because of that these are stand-ins. So there's not a whole lot of lag, even though there's this sense that there's a lot of polygons here. And then remember to save every now and then. And you can always make another mesh too with a different kind of tree. Remember, you can always rotate these two. Just make sure you're not rotating them in a direction that doesn't make sense. And of course, you may have to be careful that you don't penetrate or, move the tree into the house because that won't look so great. Okay, that's it. Thanks.